All right, we are live. Actually, I started the timer and then I hit go live and it took 20 seconds to go live. So I think the audience saw like five, four, three, and then bam, here we are. And for us, it took a while. Anyways, we are here and I'm here with the guys from datrycs with Reinhard and Markus. And so we're going to be talking about their new composable accelerator, composable commerce accelerator. Markus, please tell me if I'm right.
Yeah, absolutely, fully. And Tim and Hygraph, thanks for having us today. So maybe we just introduce
Yes,
ourselves
please.
with two words and then we step directly to the game. Yeah, my name is Markus, founder of datrycs. Beforehand, I was working in the e-commerce sphere since years, scaling also online pure players on the merchant side. Met Reinhard since years and founded datrycs, and we're focusing on small and medium-sized enterprises, especially in the composable sphere, and high graph partner, and that's why we are here today to show you what we built in the past, so to say, and how we can leverage the market with our accelerator in that case. And Reinhard, eyes on yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So my name is Reinhard. I'm CTO and co-founder at Dentrix, and also many years in e-commerce. I think it should be 20 now, or slightly
Wow.
above 20. So yeah, I'm really addicted to e-commerce, and I think we can call it it's my passion. Yeah, yeah, I'm very proud to be here. So thanks for the invite, and yeah, we will show you some cool stuff today.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because, of course, we did a little bit of prep and I've been able to see it. And I love how all the parts fit together to become something super flexible. And I'm really excited about a few parts, but I won't say them now because we'll just see them in a sec. I think what we should probably start with is Marcus and kind of let's get the story out of the way a little bit for however long Marcus needs for this, because it's really important to talk about where does this fit, for whom is it, how do you go there, and then after that, Reinhard and I will just dive super deep in some tech. So, Marcus, take it away, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we started in the whole e-commerce sphere, we stepped basically pretty early into the days of headless composability and so on and so forth. So we made our first headless project on Magento 2018 or something like that, which was pretty early.
Was that the time when Magento still had 800 queries on their homepage to a
Yeah,
database?
yeah, absolutely. It could be, yeah. But what we would like to point out is it was quite a journey to build that kind of product or accelerator until now, because what we see, and we have to be a little bit aware of all that marketing bullshit which is out on the market, that composability is the holy grail. So basically it's not, yeah. So on the one side, it gives you a lot of flexibility, but on the other side, it gives you a lot of responsibility also to deal with it properly, to get the business upside out of it. And that's what we saw the whole time, and that's why we built the accelerator. And basically we asked ourselves always, when it comes to composable commerce, why basically is it that hard to build composable commerce? And I just picked out some topics which we see often, like complex integration requirements. So if you have to build in CMS, payment gateways, PIMs, and so on and so forth, and you build that over and over and over again with different systems, it's quite complex to connect it to each other. So if you switch back to a monolith there, in that case, you do it once in the product development, and then you have it, you can repeat it, and basically those complex integrations are killing projects or making projects more sophisticated, or yeah, also from the cost side more affordable if you have a kind of accelerator for it. Especially what we also see is the customization complexity in that case. So what we see is that if you start composability from scratch, no matter if you take commerce tools, commerce layer whatsoever, you have to build a kind of components, libraries and components which you can use, because basically you get a kind of framework of big Lego blocks where you can play Lego with it and so on and so far. So this needs a bit of groundwork, which you can reuse in the end. Yeah? And if you did that from scratch, it's basically hard to do it. Yeah? Tim, we also had a talk back in the past when it's was called coupling about decoupling. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Where we talked a lot about data. Data synchronization is for sure another topic in the composable world. So connecting all the data from different sources, not only from commerce parts like the OMS or the backend engine, but also from the legacy side is pretty hard in that case. And getting this data together, attaching it, working properly with the data, defining the data schemas and so on and so forth is also an exercise which you not do that often. And if you have something like an accelerator where you have a standard schema which you can extend, you don't start at zero. So you have kind of blueprint which you can nurture and use in that case. And same as on performance optimization when it comes to the front end and other topics of the application. And of course, what we also see, if you really follow that path about full composability, you have several vendors which you have to play with. Yeah, and maybe this is also something where we thought it makes sense to build an accelerator on that case. Because
so I have a quick question here. So
yes.
you're talking about the Lego pieces, right? And you're making something composable. When you make an accelerator, how much glue do you put in between the Lego pieces? Because there are people who actually never want their Lego pieces to fall and they will just glue them shut. So
yeah, exactly.
How did you make that decision? Because the thing we have also learned is that people don't tend to change often once they choose.
Yeah.
And so how did you think about that?
Maybe we are going a bit further in the argumentation line, how we see composability. Because if I go further and look from the school book point of view on composability, you have those capabilities in the commerce sphere like product, content, dump, pricing, payments, subscriptions, merch, and so on and so forth. So a ton of capabilities which you have on the back end, and you have to glue it to some extent to build your user experience on the front end, decoupled by an API gateway and so on and so forth. And we thought about it differently, meaning the marketing speech about composability is about that you can just take the best of breed and take whatever you would like to want and so on and so forth. But to be honest, this is premium league here, yeah? So if you're at that stage, you're really a mature organization with own tech teams, own product teams, you're getting really the last drop out of it. And we thought, why we shouldn't make it different? So on the one side, you have this old monolith, which is still good because you have all in one. And on the other side, you have that full-fledged commerce capabilities. And maybe there's something in the middle. And maybe this is answering also the question to how we glue it together.
Yeah.
And our assumption was basically the following. So if we take two vendors to build a kind of, let's say, building block orchestration on it, then we glue those together within the front end, but we're lean, we're flexible, and we're extendable. So what we solve with that issue is basically giving the merchant the ability to start quick and fast. And you will dive later on with Reinhard all about the capabilities, how we slice it and dice it, yeah. But based on those two vendors like HighGraph and Commerce Layer, we're giving you as a merchant the kind of starting point where we fit the integration together. But you're free anytime if you evolve over the time to say, maybe let's say the checkout or the promotion capability in Commerce Layer is not the best, which actually fits me. So I would like to have something like, I don't know, tail-in-one or whatever, really specialized in promotions in that case, and extend that. So this is basically the starting point, yeah? So this is to some extent glued together. Reinhard can answer later on a bit more on the technical side, how is it glued, yeah? The starting point which you can use, but you're always able to decouple it over the APIs and to use it in that case. Yeah, basically that's how we think composability in that case. So going back, if you have that mass or that ton of capabilities, which is really hard to orchestrate, then we thought, hey, let's make it easy to glue it together and put everything together. Tomek is also here.
Yeah, it's nice to see some familiar faces. Yeah, it's always good. Yeah, I think the previous slide is a really interesting one where you can like, because this is the thing that for me is always very interesting when you start and you might need one of those accelerators or whatever composable. Every company, and the bigger they are, the more complex it is. They have a dark corner somewhere with dirty data, and there's a poor DevOps engineer that has to somehow optimize that and get it into the system, and they all have it. And so if you look at this slide, that can fit in multiple places and you can kind of clean it up nicely, right? You can put it in the backend and use the event bus for it with third-party stuff, or in the API gateway, or like you have a lot of hooks into having that old stuff just living there and being able to kind of modernize it through these kind of systems. And I think that's where this composable architecture can be super, super interesting.
Yeah. And especially that was also for us the bet on HighGraph, because with HighGraph we're able to fetch remote sources when it comes to data. So
Exactly.
maybe looking at that schema, we were able just to fetch, let's say, the price from the ERP system into HighGraph, just as a weird example in that case, or let's say the stock or the description from an article, we can just fetch it in HighGraph, and from HighGraph we can fetch it from the front end. So we're not doubling information, we're just caching the information in HighGraph and store it on the CDN edge. Yeah, and that's basically the beauty of that schema, or of that solution schema, because then it's also like a migration path. Yeah, so we're starting with HighGraph, caching information, build a new experience in the front end, and it's not like standard projects. So, oh shit, we're not getting the data, and we have to postpone the full project because we're not able to attach to legacy systems in that case.
Yeah,
and that was basically the concept.
Sorry. Exactly. And so the very important thing here, if I can put a little CTA to HighGraph, is that we don't actually clone the data at all. We kind of just query it for you through a GraphQL interface called Content Federation, but then storing that on the CDN edge as cache. So the system still lives on its own. And so even if you looked at this one, you could put the commerce layer information into HighGraph and then only query HighGraph if you wanted to. In your case, you might do it differently because that's what Headless is all about. You can choose it yourself.
Yeah. And I would say also the beauty of, let's say, staying the subsystems or the legacy tech independent is the secret sauce to do the transformation fast, because you're just cutting out the dependencies as well on a technical level as well as on organizational level, and can really move on projects.
Exactly. Is there anything else we should talk about on this kind of overview side, or should we dive into some diehard tech?
Yeah, mostly maybe some words about how you should move in a kind of composable project, because this is also something which we are getting asked. So how you're getting from A to B, and I would say here our experience just comes into place because we worked also on the merchant side many years and built online pure players. Yeah. So we have a hard glimpse of how you move from A to B, and what's needed for that. And what we see is that many agencies are pitching, hey, you have to go composable, fully fledged, and it will solve all your issues. And basically, this is not really the case. To stay humble here, you have this monolith which is making basically a good job. Yeah. And if you have topics why you should move to a composable architecture because you're unique, or your processes are super unique, or you have a multi-brand, multi-warehouse, whatsoever strategy, then it makes sense to move into such a sphere, with multi-channel approaches and so on and so far. But the way to go up from our side is really building at the beginning a kind of takeover phase where you go from the monolithic architecture into a microservice feel, let's say it like that. So we're building to new services or whatsoever new services aside, using them alongside with the monolith in that case, and then we're moving forward. So we're really decoupling smoothly the whole monolith to get to that composable architecture on the right. And this transform phase is basically then readjusting all the building blocks. And what's really important is that this is kind of it's an ongoing tech transformation. Yeah, you're not doing that snappy as this one. Rather, having a plan. Where are you right now? What are the business goals? Why you should do composable? What are the first steps on this journey? Yeah, because it's not a project which is finished. It's like a journey where you have to go this path and then make this ongoing tech transformation happen on that case. But that's basically within the first 15 minutes, just for the general overview. We're happy to discuss that with all the people outside. Also, we're happy to getting challenged, and
we need some questions and answers soon when we start to show more tech. The thing is, though, I want to emphasize this slide because it's probably the most important slide, because what it does is it kind of highlights that you probably need an agency to do this transformation, because agencies do this thing really well. And if you want to do this as a brand alone and you have a internal tech team, it's really, really hard to figure out when to do what and how to choose what. And so this is where basically you might sell your accelerator here, but you bring the people that know how to implement it and do this thing. And that's where it's a big worth to have partnerships like ours, where we can all put in the people, because we've done this before. And with that in mind, we can say to potential customers, like, okay, we see what you're struggling with. We have done this. Let's do it in a way that is good for you. And then you can show multiple flavors of this thing. And I've done this before I worked at startups at agency, and it would be a 4-year project. You better have an agency there to kind of help you and choose the right things. And so it's cool to see that there's now accelerators that kind of fit this model. So awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Markus.
Yeah, always welcome.
So Reinhard, did you have a specific slide you wanted to start on?
Yeah, I think we have an overview here about the technical building blocks of the accelerator. Maybe you can show us this one.
This one. Here we go.
Yeah, exactly. So we've learned a lot in the last slides, and we've seen what we can offer from the capability point of view. But let's dig a bit deeper into the tech stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give you a quick overview of what is included from the technical point of view, because there is really a lot of cool stuff here. So our foundation and system of choice here is HighGraph for data management. That means that we are not only doing all the typical stuff like maintaining, let's say, page data for some campaign pages or landing pages in HighGraph. We are also maintaining product content in HighGraph. For some clients with some requirements, we are maintaining order data or order history data in HighGraph. You have all the certifications like SOC 2 type and such kind of things. So that can easily be done with permissions and dedicated API keys. This is all secure. So we really like the flexibility here of HighGraph. And at the end, everything else we will see here in the next boxes is connected to data. So this is very important. And as I said, our foundation. Next topic, of course, no e-commerce without a web application. So we believe in React and Next.js here as technologies, and we provide a let's say application here with all the configured pages for routing with a predefined domain structure. We are using incremental static regeneration, means that we are using static pages combined with dynamic content to benefit from its performance at the end. And also the application is full of stuff like sitemap generation, automatic SEO data on product pages, and such kind of things. So
and I guess it's multi-lang and all that href.
All that
stuff that you don't want to build, it's there.
Yeah, it's
nice.
Simply there. We are building. Every client is different somehow, but at the end you're building multiple e-commerce application for all of them, and they require a base stack of features, which is nearly the same. Of course, you have somehow SEO experts who think something should be different, then you can adjust it, but it is a good foundation and a good base to start.
There's definitely
that's
lots
what
of
our
opinions,
accelerator is.
especially on how if you have like a master variant and you're showing sub variants, how do you do that for SEO? And in my career, I've had like 4 approaches to that, and they're all different, and I hated all of them.
Yeah,
Like
you
some
can ask
even
10
had like a
people and
hash
get
bang in
10
the
different
URL
opinions.
with like it was a hash bang in the URL with a sub variant number that would then change in JavaScript so Google wouldn't pick it up, and then they would notice that you did that and then throw you back in the SEO lower. And oh my god. So soon when you show this, I want to see how you do it.
Yeah.
And I imagine there's some accessibility stuff as well in there that is like quite mature.
Yeah, that's let's say something we need to improve. Honestly, there will also be a change from the legal requirements for next year. So
Okay.
online shops required to support some basics in this area of accessibility, and yeah, this is something which is currently on our roadmap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like some code compliance at least. So you need to be AA, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else do we have?
Yeah. Next thing, and maybe that's very special regarding the philosophy we are using here, the commerce components. That means that from our philosophy, we try to decouple the functional elements of our application with the visual part. We will dig a bit deeper into that in a minute, because for the visual part, we're using a visual builder application called Plasmic, and in our React application, we are using only functional components. They typically does not include any design elements like CSS classes and so on.
Okay.
But we will see that in a minute. Very, very interesting. And that, of course, gives us very huge flexibility for clients which have a multi-brand strategy or multi-shop strategy, because they can use reuse the functional elements and put every design on it as I like. Yeah.
So the front-end app in Next.js is basically functional components with just functionality and data, which is then
exactly
matched into Plasmic, and there you design how it looks. And does Plasmic then serve the pages, or is that only like how the page is served?
The pages are served by the Next.js application. We host it typically on Vercel, so we can also benefit here from font optimization or image optimization. Everything
that
is
stuff
built inside in Vercel. That's pretty nice. And during the page building process on the server side at Vercel, the design and the design elements are fetched from Plasmic, combined on the server side, and during this the static build of the pages, this is handled and then delivered and served to the clients.
Cool. And so is that running on the edge, or is that in a serverless function? Sorry, I'm going to go right in. I'm going to ask all the annoying
questions. This is from the Vercel perspective. It's this page building is running on the edge. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, one topic we already discussed, integration. This is definitely, if you do it for the first time, we've seen many clients trying that on their own. It's very time consuming and challenging. We believe here in an event-driven architecture we use. I think that's pretty flexible in a system where we have to do with a lot of SaaS toolings, and as I said, we believe here in an event-driven architecture where we provide a pre-configured Kafka environment with pre-installed topics and event schemas for all those common data entities, let's say in the e-commerce area. Could be in order, of course, product, the customer, all that kind of things. Yeah, huge benefit definitely at the end. Yeah, based on this event stream, of course, I've already said we have to do with a lot of SaaS toolings. There is always a challenge: do they support some kind of event streaming? Basically they have something, but they are following their own principles. Some solutions like HighGraph has webhooks to deal with that. Some others have their own type of event stream. Others only have an HTTP API, and in our composable commerce environment, we have to connect them all together with the event stream, and therefore we have a huge set of integration services who communicate from the event bus at the end to the dedicated system and translate everything, transform some data, and publish them to the events. And I think that's in our standard stack. It's around 20 to 30 services included here.
It sounds like you're pitching a new startup idea. I see Markus's face, not again. No, but there's a gap in our market for this part, and that's where companies like Octu and Consia, and they're all jumping on this bit, and this is a very interesting part of Composable.
Yeah, we see it very often that other agencies have a very limited scope on the e-commerce system. Only maybe CMS part is included there very often these days, but we think it get a bit bigger. Yeah, there are lots of other systems also involved. It could be the ERP system on the client side, could be some system from the invoicing, could be a logistics system. Markus, you
or like some in-store stuff, right? You want to go
some point of sales application or something like this. And as I said, we think it gets a bit bigger. Everything needs to be connected at the end, and therefore we are providing that event-driven architecture system. And we do not limit our clients here. That means that we are not putting that into the scope of e-commerce. It's fully open for the client. So if they identify that this could be the architecture or the way to go for other solutions on their side as well, they can use our Kubernetes infrastructure. They can use the event-driven, the event bus with Kafka. It's not limited. They can use it, and
that's very cool.
Happy to see that. Yeah.
And so, do you tend to, or are you probably flexible? But do you tend to host this on the customer's infrastructure, or do you say, here we have this, you pay us a license, and we just put it on here?
Yeah. We've set up an infrastructure or tooling around that using Kubernetes. Everything's Kubernetes ready. We have a lot of open source tools in our stack, like Grafana, Prometheus for monitoring, tracing. We're using Achilles, for example, for secret management. There is a lot of other stuff included there. The clients have no vendor lock. Yeah, we are providing an infrastructure offering. Yeah, that's for sure. But there is nothing special about us. If the clients have, I don't know, one of the big hyperscalers where they're hosting everything, they are free to do so, or they can do it on their own. But we will provide something, some software tooling here.
Exactly.
We are happy to offer that. We have some support packages and so as well. On that infrastructure, so the client definitely have some benefits of using our infrastructure, but the important part here is the clients have no vendor lock. Yeah, they can switch anytime. They can use maybe for specific building blocks something differently. That's totally up to them. Yeah,
we see that really often in projects where clients are stuck to agencies who are building just the tech on their side, so that you have a quite vendor lock, and then basically it comes to the situation you don't want to work longer with the agency and try to get out of that trap, and then it start to getting nasty in that case. And this situation are putting our clients into the comfortable situation that they always can take out the old infrastructure, go to the vendor hyperscaler of choice, just can run it there. This is one topic. And the other topic is it puts us a little bit under fire, or in that position that we always have to strive to be really experts and excellent for that. Yeah. So that there is no chance for the, or what means no chance, and that there is no moment where the client has to think, I would like to switch the hosting or something like that.
Yeah.
And what we're also doing is, maybe this is a little bit unusual, with every paid invoice, we're mirroring the full code and the database to the clients, so that they have always the full confidence that they have what they paid, and they also always can just get the plug out in that case. Yeah. So
it's very interesting to see this,
because this is also something which we see. Then the client hasn't accessibility to code or IP on the code and something like that, and it just gives the clients trust that we're working with open-minded roots in that case, and we strive for the best which we can do.
Yeah, I think this is very nice to see, because lots of agencies want to remain sticky as possible, and therefore have very complicated setups and force people to do certain things that then work for a year, but when you mature or grow, suddenly it doesn't work anymore. You have to pay the agency more. It's just complicated. So I
Exactly.
love seeing the flexibility. Reinhard, shall we show some code, or maybe some examples at least to get started?
Yeah, I've prepared a small journey based on some product data. Yeah, to show you
I'm
how
just putting it
everything
on the
looks
screen
like,
here.
exactly, all over the systems which are involved here. Especially HighGraph, plus make the visual builder, and then how it looks like in code, and how we can extend something. Yeah. Okay, what we can see here is typical HighGraph interface with all the data models here. I want to focus mostly on the product today, but we also have models here for the brand, or for the homepage, for the navigation to influence that, or content post to build some kind of blog or magazine on a page, which can be maintained by some editors. Yeah, let's dig into the product model a bit, to give you some basic information to understand what we will see in the next phases with Plasmic and at the end in code. So here we are in an example product. On the root level, of course, we have some typical attributes, so I don't need to say so much about this. So we have a naming, we have a slug, we have a description, which is typically in place for, let's say, every product which is in the database. We maintain a separate image for listing pages, or maybe for gallery sliders, something like this. Then we have all the images on the detail page. This is something we separate. We have somehow product lists. Can also show you later how they are used in Plasmic. This is basically a flat list of products you want to put together somehow. It could be accessories, could be some kind of categories, how to bundle them. This can be done with product lists. So this is very flexible. There is a more generic thinking behind it. Yeah.
So could this be something like, hey, for Christmas, we're going to make a list of things to buy for your mom, and this could be one of those lists in that context?
Yeah, if it's could be if it's very limited. Yeah, if it's a more bigger list, I would say it could be more or less an assortment. Yeah.
Okay.
Assortments are much bigger. These are more some kind of catalogs. Where I can create, for example, in that case here, we see that we have a specific assortment for B2C clients.
Yeah.
There could be an additional assortment for B2B clients. So product lists are from the philosophy more lean, let's say. If you have 10, 50 products, maybe you want to show as some kind of accessory, then it makes sense to use the product lists.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I already told something about the assortment. This is some tooling you can create catalogs. Could be B2C, could be B2B, as I explained. But maybe if you are in the fashion industry, it could be a summer assortment, or it could be a winter assortment. And what's pretty cool about assortments is that if you want to put a product online, that it's visible and buyable at the end. Yeah. We are not assigning products directly to the markets or to the websites. This all is handled by the assortment. So you always have to assign the product to the assortment, and then you can assign the assortment to that specific market. And of course, that could be multiple assortments you are assigning. And we have customers, for example, using those assortments and standard features like the releases and scheduling of HighGraph to maintain their seasonality. Yeah, so in summer they have the summer assortment, and they can during the winter season they can prepare everything. It often takes a lot of time, and then after they finished all the assortment, then they can schedule it for 1st of March or so, that it goes online, and they can combine that with content pages or landing pages. They can put it in the same release and publish it on a specific date. So,
I mean, if you think about the standard e-commerce solution, or even about a composable solution, and think about flash sales. Yeah. So at midnight, 12 o'clock, you put on the assortment with the content blocks and so on and so forth. You have to do a lot. And even in 2024, systems are not super ready for that to have content and the catalog time controlled there. Yeah. And here we have the beauty that we combine those two worlds.
Yeah,
this is where you see that HighGraph is really into like really good data management and permissions and who can release what, when, all that stuff is a big focus on HighGraph, and that's what I love seeing how well you guys use all these features. That's super awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Sure. Then we have a brand assignment. It's not reduced very often, but it's a sub-entity here if you want to build up some brand pages, for example, or show up a logo for on the PDP for a particular brand. Then of course you can use it as part of our standard data model. Then we have a specification set, or sometimes also another e-commerce solution called attribute sets or something like this. This differs your product types at the end. Yeah. So, for example, if you have electronics, you have maybe tools, something like this. And for example, for electrical stuff, you need an energy efficiency label or classification. Then you can put it into the specification set for this and assign everything you need to that particular product. And also we see here variants, so you can have in the very simple model a t-shirt in different sizes or different colors. And through the specification set, you can also override attributes which are on the variant level. So, for example, if you have a light, and you have a version with a more wattage on or more power on it, then, for example, it could happen that it's bigger for the diameter, or it has more light sources in it, and then it's required to override some specifications, maybe. This is basically how it looks like on the data side. And
so a quick question here: if I wanted to make a product page, and of course I'm going to grab this data. But what if I also, let's say it's about like some fashion thing. They tend to love to show behind the scenes how this bag was made. So there might be a little video, there might be some extra copy. How do I add that to this?
Yeah. In that case, for example, to add a video, it could be made by adding a specific attribute here where you can place the video asset, for example. Or it could also be part of the brand page. So maybe it's something generic. How I don't want to name some brand here, but let's say how a big fashion brand is working, or maybe it's more a brand video. Then you could put it on a brand page and reference to that on the PDP. Yeah, there are multiple options, I would say, to do that, and that's good about flexibility.
We have also the beauty again that we can use HighGraph as well for the assets, aka videos and pictures on that, and just display it in the front end. Yeah. So that makes it beauty in that case.
Great. So then let's jump over to another tool here. As we've said, we're separating design and functionality. This is a tool called Plasma we're using for maintaining the design, creating the design. And let's give you a short overview about the tool itself. So maybe you've already seen that here in the central area. We see the whole page, how it's rendered. We see it in different breakpoints.
Oh, wow.
We see how it looks like. And on the left side, we see a representation of this page in some kind of DOM tree, let's say. It looks like a file explorer. We have all the elements here. We're going to dig a bit deeper here into the H1 tag, for example. This pops up, so you see more details. And you can navigate here in that tree for all of the elements here. You see that it's popping up where are with the cursor. On the right side, it's very important here. You have all the settings where you maintain, let's say at the end, your CSS classes. You define your font size, You define your colors, your spacings, margins, and everything you know from.
So where do you
previous
define this? Can a content editor without any knowledge of accessibility make a yellow header on a red background?
I think you should have some basic knowledge, definitely. Yeah. You can define what a content editor can do. Yeah.
Okay,
There are,
that's good.
honestly, for this tooling, there are different price tiers, and of course, in
Okay.
enterprise, you can do most of the stuff. And I can define which of those sections here a content editor is able to see. Yeah. So I can say,
Okay.
hey, should the content editor be able to adjust the size, for example, or how the tag is rendered? This is typically something I don't want to have a content editor decide.
Sometimes
because there
not,
are
sometimes
search
exactly.
engine stuff and so behind.
Yeah.
You can damage something at the end. Yeah. That can be defined on a very granular level. What you want to have a content editor be able to do.
And so here in the content field where you were there, so it says "Willkommen by datrycs." Is that some content that is typed in here, or does that come from HighGraph?
This is currently a content which comes from here, from Plasmic. We separate typically between content which needs to be adaptive because you have editors working on that, and on the other half you have content which is more statically. It could be that, for example, you have dynamic content which should be shown up here. Then we can create something. So this is maintainable in HighGraph. Currently, this is coming from Plasmic in this example.
Yeah, I'm always asking this one because there's a complicated distinction between domain data and volatile data. And your domain data lives in HighGraph because that's where it's extremely good at. But your volatile data like this, it might not say "Willkommen" next week. It might say "Good evening" next week, or whatever, something personalized or something completely different. And so volatile data should maybe not be in the CMS in this instance, but it's much easier to type it in here.
Yeah. Especially if it's more constant and not dynamic at the end. But it depends on the customer what
Exactly.
you want to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Some customers only want to have the shop, want to have the products online. They don't have editors who take care about contents. They don't have some kind of blog or something.
Exactly.
Which is dynamic. They have more or less a standard shop.
Yeah, I've worked for customers that didn't want content editing because their agency would design, this is what that page looks like for these 3 months. And you just build it. No content editing. This is it. We do all languages in 1 week, and then that's it. And so you have to be flexible when you do an accelerator like this.
Yeah, definitely. That kind of stuff can be done here on this right sidebar. Wow. And let's have a look because we've seen that product data before. This was this chair. Maybe you recognize the images.
I do.
Excuse me, I've seen that morning that most of the texts here are in German language.
There's no problem.
But
I'm
I think
European
it's
enough to understand it.
Exactly. So for that example, if I click into that here with the double click, what you can do, or what we've seen here, is that this is defined here as a reusable component. Yeah, so this is defined once, and then with a right click, you can combine that or group those, so it can be reused on other pages as well. To modify those, it's pretty easy to double click here, and then everything pops up. And if I adjust something here, then this changes is taken to all of the other pages where this is.
Okay, so it's a reusable component. So if you make this black text now, it's black everywhere.
It's black everywhere, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, what we see here on in the DOM tree now. Let's have a look on this. So we see here some components with datrycs in its name. Yeah, it's datrycs product description, it's datrycs product title. Here's a price container. But the most important stuff currently is the datrycs product container here. Okay. We have a couple of components which are named with this term container. And that means that they are mostly used for data fetching. So this container now is responsible for fetching the product data from iGraph. In that case, and let's take a look on what we can set here on this component. So we have 3 properties here. First, there is a preview slug. This is set. Then we have a slug. This is unset. I will explain you in a second why. And then there is also a main product. Is main product a Boolean attribute? And what that means is that at the end we're defining here a dynamic page. We see now this particular chair, but it's a dynamic page we're designing here. So we need to define which product we want to fetch here to show up in the editor. And that's what the preview slug is used for. So typically in most companies, there are 3, 4, 5 specific products where you know from previous projects, hey, these are your bad guys, let's say.
The horrible data. Now let's see. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can use those particular products.
Yeah, so it's not like in Plasmic. So in Plasmic, you cannot browse all your products. You basically browse a product page or a PDP, and then you add the preview slug in to at least get some data on how that template looks. That's what we're looking at. Exactly. So it's not like I'm browsing the site and I'm editing what I see. I'm actually editing my templates, and I need some preview data to be able to know how this will look with this amount of data. That's what this slug does. Okay, cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
And this gives also a huge benefit for designers, for example. This UI here is very similar to toolings like Figma. And if a designer get some kind of introduction to this tooling, the designer is able to adjust something here. And the huge benefit here is that the designer don't need to work with mock data. Like in tools like Figma, he can work already with real data and make his design adjustments on the page and directly show how it looks like. I mean, every one of us who built that once, who go once through this process.
I might have brought this 100
designer to a developer. You will know that at the end, I don't know, the image aspect ratio is different, the length of the product description is different.
Exactly.
And the page is broken and doesn't look like doesn't match to the original design 100%, let's say. And with that, you can directly see how it will look like. And that's a huge benefit in our opinion.
We're also cutting a bit the process so that you don't need this daisy chain like designer, front-end developer, back-end developer, and so on and so forth. So basically the designer could just design everything what he or she would like to design directly in Plasmic, and the components are ready and you can drag drop them and basically you have fully functional code out of it or a working website.
Quick question here. Let's say I'm a huge brand and I have an agency working on my design, my component library, my design language, my whole system. How does that work with this? Can you implement whatever the components they have already into this?
There are importers from Figma, for example. So if they have, this brand has everything in Figma, it's possible to import things. Honestly speaking, to import a whole page at once is really a pain.
No, but you just do it component by component and then.
But you can do it exactly. You can do it component by component. Then you have some auto-generated stuff like naming. Then for this component, you have, I don't know, 3 to 4 names you can adjust, and then you can do it component by component and create the page that way. This is possible.
Cool. And
maybe, folks, as we have just 10 minutes left, I would like to scope the angle a bit also on the commerce components which are integrated into Plasmic, so that we are getting the audience at the end to the fully working website, so that we come from iGraph to the visual design, reflecting the code components which we have in here. We're doing things like add to cart and so on and so forth, so that we see the.
I would love. I have like 1,000 more questions. I will hold off. The one thing I want to see is what comes out of this, and how does that become a website? Like, is there something you can show us, maybe in VS Code or something, about what comes out of this to then make it a site? And also, as a web developer myself, can I then change whatever CSS Plasmic added to this because I might not like it? And then after
Yeah.
that, I want to see the full flow. So like Markus said, like we can click buttons and actually see it work.
Yeah, I can show it. So let me quickly finish this container component.
Yeah.
So we've seen here, we have here a couple of properties, and this is totally up to the developers which properties to provide here, and what needs to be controlled by this component. I will show you that in a minute in VS Code. And these container components are basically built up on based on React context.
Okay.
And they control all the data here. And then we have the sub-elements here, for example, in that case, here, the product title, the product description, which shows some data. And these are pretty easy components, which accesses the context at the end, and renders the text in that case, And they can you can fully design everything here to make them appear as you like. Okay, then let me quickly change my screen to VS Code.
I think you might have to just reshare something else.
Yeah, I think I need to reshare.
I'll just remove this one and then you can reshare. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm quite interested to see that you basically cut out the front-end developer by a lot, which is interesting. If it works, it's a lot cheaper and a lot less complaining.
For all that standard stuff, let's say,
for all the basics.
Still needs developers for sure to maintain that stuff, and there are a lot of individual stuff for each client to build.
Of course.
But why to reinvent the wheel every time? And that's something we
totally
cut out. So my screen share now, right? So let's quickly jump to the container component so you can see how it looks like.
Oh yeah,
so
exactly.
Basically, what we see here at the end is a very simple standard React functional component in that library. So it's a product container, and what we see here is also that we have this interface defined, and here you remember all the properties we had in Plasmic, the previous slug, the slug, and the Boolean property here is main product. And of course we have the children, and then we have a very small JSX here, which renders a product provider, and this is the context element. And inside of this context element, it's huge. It's combined some functionality here to track Google Analytics stuff. But what we see here is that the query here for the product is defined. So the GraphQL query. The data is fetched here, and then here the JSX for the product container context is rendered. And so children can access this context data.
And so all this information is passed to the children, basically.
Exactly. And using React context, so you don't need this prop drilling.
Yes, exactly.
As before, I think it was announced in React 16, with the context.
Yes.
So it's much easier to work, to work for us in that kind of tooling here. And then we have the product description, which was one of the sub-elements we've seen in Plasmic. And in that case, what is very important here to connect now Plasmic with the code component is just a simple thing. You have to define in your interface a class name. And what Plasmic does, it auto-generates a CSS class for you, depending on what you've set in your properties on the right sidebar. And then this auto-generated class name is injected here to this property, so it can be used here anywhere in your JSX. In that case, there is a main div container at the beginning, which wraps it, which has the class name. It's also possible to define multiple classes in Plasmic. So you can put them somewhere different. For example, I can put them here in this fragment.
Oh yeah, exactly.
This is possible, but this is more complex, of course. Basically, it's just
React fragment like this will not add a div, right? On the line 21, it's just a nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And this is how it looks like. And then to have this kind of functional component here available in Plasmic, there is an SDK included here, which is on the app page or on the pages folder. This is a higher order component for Plasmic, which takes care of the connection at the end. But we will need to provide some kind of metadata, and this is what we see here.
Yeah.
And this provides the information for Plasmic how this component should look like. Yeah. So there is a name, and in case you have specific properties, we can see that here on the product container. There we have these properties configured here, how they should look like on Plasmic side. So which data type they should have. In that case is shielded on a slot, so we can maintain sub elements here. Or in that case, it's a Boolean. Yeah,
this is great. So you're basically informing Plasmic code first what it should show.
Exactly.
That is cool. I was not expecting that. I thought you had to then click and drag a lot in Plasmic, set it up, and then hopefully get that down to your code base with some CLI or something. But it's actually oh, that's awesome.
It's the other direction.
Yeah,
at the end. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So you as a developer can choose this is what Plasmic sees.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay. That now it makes more sense now. Okay, this is great. Yeah, I have 1,000 questions I'm not going to ask because we have 4 minutes. Should we maybe, if you wanted, of course, Reinhard, finish up a little bit in what you wanted to say here, but maybe let's have a look at like what this website actually looks like and how the flow looks.
You mean the whole website? Let me check if that works.
Yeah, because we have all these integration related things, right? Because we're going to have to like add to cart and do login or whatever. I'll remove the screen so you can put your browser back on.
Let me quickly check if that builds currently because it's running on.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, because while we wait, Markus, maybe you can talk a little bit about how Commerce Layer is connected here.
Yeah, basically we, as we saw on Plasmic before, that we have components for HighGraph. We have also components for Commerce Layer, like add to cart or fetch prices or fetch inventory, which basically comes from Commerce Layer in that case. And then you, as a designer, can just get the components from HighGraph or Commerce Layer, orchestrate it from the functionality point of view, and it glues together there. Yeah, so that's basically what's happening in that case. And
oh, that's awesome.
Go.
So it's a very similar approach with these container components in Plasmic. I love that we're on localhost now. It works. That's cool.
Yeah, it works definitely.
Basically, it goes to Versal or in production mostly of the time.
In production, it's on Versal.
You just had Versal.dev, and so probably it's running through Versal's infrastructure now, anyways, right?
No, I think it's. Is there something where's it connected? No, I think it's totally localhost.
Oh, this is okay. Okay, cool.
Maybe the images. I'm not sure. Let me check.
Doesn't matter.
The images are fetched from Versal, but yeah, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter for now.
Yeah. So this is at the end the PDP page, which results in that showcase application. Here this add to cart button, German in the Warenkorb, is used here. This is a library we use from Commerce Layer, which provides this React library.
Oh, nice.
With all the functional components. They share a bit all the philosophy to separate the functionality from the design, but they do it more on the code side. Yeah, and what we do is we wrap somehow their components and wrap it into Plasmic components, so it can be easily adapted to the way of we are working. Yeah,
that's cool.
And in that showcase here, I'm using also something which is pretty nice, which also comes from Commerce Layer. They have a couple of they call it hosted applications. They
Okay.
are very generic when it comes to their brand identity. Let's say it's black and white, but in a modern style. Yeah.
Sure.
And this is integrated into the application.
Oh,
layer,
is this an
but
iframe?
it's hosted on their side. Yeah, it's in an iframe.
Oh, I love this. This is very smart. Now
yeah,
you don't have to build this.
Exactly. You have better.
Yeah, because I've
you
been
can
around.
reduce the time to market because
Yeah,
you can care about
exactly.
how the products are presented, and then you can use something standardized for the checkout process and for the cart process.
I love this model. More companies should do it. It's kind of funny, right? So you're fully headless, Mac Alliance, all the things.
Yeah.
And then turns out that's really hard to build yourself. And so why not just make something based on a little origin that everybody can use and suddenly is much more successful? Like this thing. Shopify has the same thing. BigCommerce.
Yeah,
has
Shopify
it's very smart.
looks nearly the same. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I noticed that. No, but this is great. So you didn't have to build this.
Yeah,
So
the customer don't have to pay for it.
how does it work? This is my last question, because I've worked on this kind of stuff back in the day, so we didn't have these services. So I had to build a checkout for 60 markets, or like 30 markets, 60 languages. Ridiculous, all with different ways of how do you log in, how do you store your whatever phone number, all that. What if you get a big customer like that is demanding in the UK the street has to be like this, and then in Germany it's going to be like that? And how does that all work? Does Commerce Layer just offer you this, and if they're not, you just ask them, or would you then build it yourself?
Yeah, this requires some customization to do that. It not comes from the hosted application part, but it's totally open source. You can just fork the application.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
And you can do your changes here and find a way how to implement this the specific topics for the country in that case.
Open source is just magical, isn't it? This is great, guys. We are a little. Yeah, exactly. We are a little over time. Mostly my fault because I have too many questions. I have a lot more, but maybe we can do a V2 at one point. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us and showing us this magic. And I'm really hoping you get to be able to show a bunch of this stuff live if it's running already. And if you have something that's in production on this, feel free to share that in our chat. But as far as I know, this is still quite new, right?
It's quite new.
Yeah.
But we have 2 projects basically on production right now.
Awesome.
So we're working actually on the case study so that we can publish it. But everyone who would like to know more about it, just be open, connect us on LinkedIn or over iGraph in that case, and we can show you the live project as well.
Yeah, and you can actually go into, you can see the little ticker below here on the screen. You can go to datrycs.com/accelerators and then Composable, what is it? Composable Commerce. That makes a lot of sense. And exactly. We can also, we have it both now. It's also in the chat, so it's easier to click on the link there. So thank you guys so much. I am really excited by the model that you have used. And I think this plasmic thing that separates out the whole design business from the real data business, that means it's ready for scale. And this is cool. And I hadn't used something like that way. So I'm pretty intrigued to figure out how you did it. So Reinhard, expect some questions soon. Thank you so much, both. And is there a last word you guys want to share? Maybe Markus or Reinhard? Go for it. If not, it's beer time.
All good.
All right, beer time it is. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. And
thanks, everyone.
Don't studio just yet, by the way. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
I just clicked end stream.